to Cracking Open. I'm Jason Hiner, and with me I've got Bill Detwiler, our Cracking Open expert. We've been doing Cracking Opens for over a decade on Tech Republic, and we're here with our sister site, CNET, talking about the Apple HomePod today. So, Bill, this device has been anticipated for quite some time, is now available, and as always we do with new technologies, we're going to break it apart, see what's inside, and see what we can learn about it and what we can share with all of our viewers.
Yeah, definitely.
Tell me what you're going to do with this one.
You know, just like we did with the Alexa or the Echo, and we've done with other smart tech, you know, it's really interesting to take these things apart and see all the chips, all the technology that's packed inside these devices that actually make them smart. So more than just a regular speaker, right?
Yep.
And so with the HomePod, where we're going to start is we're actually going to go through the bottom right here. Now this is the rubber silicone ring that people might have heard so much about in the news that leaves, as Apple calls it, or Apple describes it, I think, a light mark on some wood furniture, or a light ring. But we're going to remove that here. You know, it's not something probably the average user should do at home, but for our purposes, that's where we're going to start. So
we do it so you don't have to.
That's right. Now to do this, these rings are usually held on with an adhesive, so we're going to use our handy heat gun here on a little bit of a low setting to try and heat up the glue, and then we're just going to pry the rubber ring off, and that's going to be our point of entry.
So this device, of course, has been long anticipated. It was delayed, but it is finally here, and there is a lot of interest in it. You know, people who are Apple fans, Apple users, have been waiting for a device like this. Of course, Siri came out before Alexa, but has not made as much progress in AI and natural language processing. We see some of the competitors, which we're going to talk about through that. We have the HomePod, we have the Sonos One, and we have Google's Home Max, which are all competitors to this device. Bill, what is it about this device that's driving a lot of interest? Why is it that there are people buying this and that are people obviously watching that are interested in learning more about why they might want to get this device?
Yeah, so if you have one of, if you're already in the Apple ecosystem, then this device sort of fits within that ecosystem, you know, very well, right?
Yeah.
And it also sounds really good. It's a good quality speaker, especially when it comes to bass.
They don't really want the average person to be able to get this apart. So that's why we're doing it, so that you can see what's in there and we can learn a little bit. This thing has a 4-inch woofer, which is near the top, as well as 7 tweeters. So this is a pretty serious speaker, and that's why it costs so much. This is the high end of the speaker category in typical Apple fashion.
So you can kind of see I've got one of the screws out, which was a Torx T5 screw. Now we're taking out there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's another one hidden under the adhesive. When you're cracking these devices open, that's what's really kind of interesting here. You don't know what you're going to encounter, and a lot of the times, because people don't want you to take, the manufacturers don't want you to take these apart, then you have to sort of find and learn as you go. You know, sometimes other people have cracked them open online, or you can do some research. But a lot of times when you're doing these devices, you just sort of go along and see what you can find. And what we're doing here is, you know, it's kind of hard to see, and this is the part that can be kind of frustrating when we're taking these things apart. Is that, you know, there are screws attached to this plastic ring at the bottom. I don't know how many exactly screws there are, or how, you know, sometimes how the screws are configured. And so you kind of have to work your way around, work your way in the device. So what I'm trying to do is, we have a variety of tools that we use. These are little metal plastic picks. We use things, spudgers. We do our best not to damage the devices. I don't know if we're going to do that on this one here, because, you know, it's made to be taken apart and repaired, but by a professional and not in a repair facility, and not really by the end user.
Yeah, you've been doing these for a long time, and you know, 99% of the devices we crack open, we put back together again and still use, because Bill kind of has the mind of an engineer and the hands of a surgeon. You know, so you know, part of that is patience. You're very patient when you are doing a device like this, and if you are getting into one of your own devices, you have to be really patient. You can't push it you can't force it, that's when you're going to break something.
Yeah.
You're going to break a knob. You're going to break a connector that you need to get something back together.
And so we found here, and this is kind of one of those unique situations.
Yeah.
So if I hold this for the camera so everybody can see, what we found is basically that this plastic ring here, once I've removed the screws from the center, it's held in place not just with adhesive, but it's also held in place by the outside cover.
Okay.
Now, we're going to try and remove the cover without cutting it. I don't know if we're going to be successful in that, but we're going to give it a shot.
All right.
That's the one part, if I had to cut this, it wouldn't, I wouldn't be able to replace that very easily, and I wouldn't be able to put that back on. So I'm going to pry this off with this little metal tool here, and this should come off if I can. Let's see here. Work our way around.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, it's
and
coming.
So now this is a little, so we can see here, another little plastic ring.
Yeah.
More adhesive, our favorite things. When you take these apart, you can see the adhesive right here. That's always a pain to deal with. It's funny, when we first started cracking things or we started cracking things open, we didn't really see a lot of adhesive. We saw more mechanical connections. We saw screws,
clips,
snaps, tabs.
Yeah.
Especially on mobile phones, as the devices have gotten thinner, we see, and as people wanted more water resistance, more dust resistance, we've seen an increased use in adhesives, which makes taking them apart, at least in our opinion, a lot harder.
Yeah.
And thus the heat gun and sort of trying to be more careful. Now, we've gotten the base off. We've gotten the internal little base off. What I don't see are any other screws. We're going to try and attack this from the top now. We're going to try and remove this plastic piece here, see if there are any more screws.
It's important to know this is a touch screen up here. This is where you're operating Siri and working with Siri. And so, this is something you're going to want to be
We're going to be real careful with that and try not to damage it. We don't see, and this is why I said we're trying to remove this without cutting it.
This is like a sock almost on the outside, right?
It is a sock.
Is your hope that you're going to be able to peel it?
We're going to try now that we've got the bottom off, we're going to try to take the top off and keep going.
So you mentioned the microphones, that might be microphones at the bottom. That is one of the things that this device has done well in early tests from CNET and others as well. This has a very good mic system. So Siri sometimes even it will mishear you or won't hear you if you're too far away. This device has a very sensitive microphone system. And so the bass and the room-filling sound and the good microphone system are one of the benefits of this device, especially versus the Sonos One. Not a very good mic system in the Sonos One, but this is an excellent sound system. Not quite as good as this, but it's also less. You can get two of these basically for the price of one of these. And not as good of a mic system, but it has good sound, much less expensive, and it is like the speaker system.
So we had a little bit of a damage here. So this is the danger whenever you take things apart. So we were really trying to take this apart without damaging the sock here, without cutting it. And unfortunately, I had my heat gun, and this is why sometimes we use a hairdryer instead of a heat gun. But the heat gun for the video is a little faster. And to keep this video under an hour, we decided to go with a little more heat. And unfortunately, it's a little more dangerous, right? And so we have melted a little bit of the cover here. And we're still going to try and heat this up. I'm still going to try and remove this. But yeah, the cover is probably a lost cause at this point. It's just a battle scar. Yeah, it's just a battle scar here that we'll have to live with.
So this is a learning experience. Again, we do this so you don't have to with your HomePod. So Bill, touchscreen makes this definitely more treacherous, right? Because there's going to be more electronics, there's going to be more wires attached to the bottom of this, and that's going to make it more of a challenge, right?
It is, and so that's why we use the heat. That's why we use these small devices. When we first started cracking, like this is sort of a modified guitar pick, right? Yeah. And we can slide this plastic device in here and try to slide it through the glue. Yeah. And not crack this. If I were to take one of these metal devices and not just sort of shove it in there. Guitar picks tend to work pretty well for this because they are flexible, they're plastic. Yeah. They usually don't scratch the underlying, they won't scratch the underlying components, and they can cut through the adhesive. You can see this is pretty strong stuff. Yeah. Thus, I'm pushing pretty hard to get through here. That's what the heat does.
And these
it
are
really
better
helps.
tools than we used to have,
Oh,
too,
yeah.
right?
So early on, we used anything that we could. We used razor blades, we used kitchen knives, we used, on the first iPhone that we did, I think I used a kitchen knife, right?
Yeah.
Now we've gotten a little bit more sophisticated.
It's true. There's a great old photo out there on the internet of when we cracked open the first iPad. And remember, in that, there's like Swiss Army knives stuck in the side, there's spatulas, there's all kinds of things that are all stuck in at once as we're trying to pry that screen off of the back casing.
All right, let's see what we can do here.
This one's being difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, it's being a little tougher than normal, but that's
Yeah.
okay. We expected it to be. All right, so we're finally sort of through the top of this. We've heated the adhesive enough, and I've kind of worked my way around. And so hopefully we're going to be able to lift this off. Now, I really have tried to do this. You know, if you get impatient, you can just pull this back right here.
Sure.
I suspect this part here would just snap off.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. But we also know, because this is an LCD or a screen of some type, right? There's going to be a connector, there's going to be a cord, there's going to be something connected to it. I really don't want to take a metal tool like this, go all the way around without kind of knowing where that cord is, or trying to at least avoid it somewhat.
For safety reasons,
Yeah.
as well as destroying the technology.
Right, yeah. And it looks like the light, actually, this may just be a cover that the light shines through, so I might even have to worry about that. But that's what you don't know. You really don't necessarily know until you get in here what you're going to find.
Yep. Now, let's talk about Siri a little bit, because Siri is what's powering this device. And Siri really pioneered this smart assistant revolution, but Siri has fallen pretty far behind. It is just a cover.
Yeah, so this actually is just a cover. And the lights are actually mounted here.
Yeah. Here, let's show.
You can show that off while I keep taking this off.
And yeah, you can see the plus and minus, volume, the power, and then of course the logo, the Siri logo that pops up. As we were talking about, Siri had a nice lead in smart assistants from several years ago, and they've really lost that, unfortunately. So this is not a device that's going to be, your smart home control center, that's going to be your smart assistant, because it doesn't have as many third-party integrations as Alexa, and it doesn't have as good of native integrations as Google Assistant. Nor does it have the language capabilities that Google Assistant has in multiple languages. So this is a pretty US-centric device, and definitely sort of English-centric device, much more than Google and even Alexa. So you do have to keep that in mind with this speaker. That said, it is Apple's first speaker, and you have to expect that they'll learn from this.
So we removed 4. These are Torx screws. These were actually T5s on the bottom. I used a T6 or a T6 to remove these.
Okay.
And that's another frustrating thing that you find inside these devices, is that manufacturers, for whatever reason, like to use different sizes of screw. And I'm
multiple
like,
different
yeah,
kinds.
multiple different kinds,
Yeah.
especially Apple. I don't know what it is. If you take apart a Samsung phone, if you take apart something else like that, they use the same screws, or they use similar screws.
Okay.
No, not inside an Apple device. There'll be 15 different sizes, lengths, different head types. So it really does help, if you're taking these apart, to have a pretty good assortment of tools to help you do that. So we've got the screws out of here. Again, I'm going to try and pry this off and see if it's going to pop off easily, or if we're going to have sort of more trouble underneath. I'm trying to feel how much resistance is here.
Yeah.
I don't see any other screws here. I don't know if there's any screws under the little Siri cap.
Yeah.
There is not, actually.
Not.
This is just a little white cap. There's
Those
a
are
bunch
all
of
LED
lights right there,
Yeah.
it looks like.
Put that on the table.
So I can't really see whether or not, this plastic piece is separate from this. So we're going to try and pop this off and see what happens. Oh, and it looks like, interestingly enough, there's another
spot there.
So here we go. So there's more adhesive down there.
Yeah.
So we're going to pry this off very gently. Now, so this piece of hardware right here has the Siri, the LED lights.
Yeah.
It had the screw holes passing through it. It has the ambient, what I suspect is an ambient light sensor right here. And the controls, the plus and minus controls here for the volume.
Yep.
We can see here at the back, it's connected by this little really thin ribbon cable. Now you see those a lot, or we call them ribbon cables. I think they're actually called flat, flexible, folding cables or something like that. So they stopped calling them ribbon cables. That shows our age, right? Those ribbon printer cables.
Yeah.
But it's connected. Now I don't want to damage that. So what I'm going to do is be very careful. There's a small gated connector right here that the cable plugs into. I should be able to pop that loose with a little bit of a metal tool here maybe, or it may just pull out if it actually doesn't have a gate on it. I think that it does. There we go. There we release the gate like that, and then I can pull this out. Boom, and it's gone. So this is what I talk about with being able to sort of remove these parts without causing too much damage.
Yeah.
So on this board, now this is interesting with these devices. You see these shields here, the metal shields. These are those EMI, RF, some type of electromagnetic interference shields designed to protect the circuits underneath. And with some devices, those are actually, here, I'll take it. Yeah. With some devices, these shields are actually, you can pop them off. Okay. With other devices, you can't. So some manufacturers, when they put these shields on, they actually solder them to the boards. Now,
so what's likely under there, Bill?
Well, so there's going to be the controllers for the LEDs. There's going to be the controllers for the touch sensors. There's probably going to be the controller for the ambient light sensor.
The A8, you think is under there?
No, I think that's further. I would suspect that's kind of further down here. I could be wrong. I haven't looked at the chip that's under here. It's possible that it's there, but the only way to find out is to kind of keep going and keep getting further into the device. Now we can see down here more screws, right? So we're going to try our T6, see if that'll, and it does, yay. Great. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to keep taking off screws. Now you can kind of see we've built up a little pile of screws, piles of, oops, we're throwing things around, piles of components. Here's another one.
This is like, 19th century clothing. It's just one layer and then another layer and then another layer.
These really are like nesting dolls, right? You know, you keep going deeper and deeper. Now, I will say this, the Apple HomeKit, we don't know, this episode of Cracking Open may be like our longest episode ever. Feel like a marathon here.
It's okay.
But these speakers are actually really complicated to take apart. The Echo was, this one is, because, they're more than just small devices. Like a phone, usually you pop the top off of the thing and you can get right into it. Now what we've done here is we've actually, and this is what really annoys me about some of these Cracking Opens, right? Yeah. I've figured out, we found that there's this seam, right, for the cover, and there's these couple strings here that are wrapped around some plastic pegs on this little piece of plastic here inside the speaker. And if we remove these pieces of string and we pull this out, you can see how this comes apart. Here we have this little plastic ring, it's just a holder. And I suspect, and just as I suspected,
sure enough, that's going to let
if I pull this like this, it's kind of like shoelaces, right?
Yeah.
We can pull this like this. We can get a shot like
that's
a really good shot, and we can pull this off. So I won't have to cut it.
That's great.
Pull the sock down.
There we go.
And we can see
the magic moment there.
Yeah, we can see the plastic frame.
Yeah.
It'll just come loose like this. Now, obviously, and we could remove the whole thing to totally once we actually take the speaker apart and we remove the power cord from the speaker, this would just slide off that way.
Yeah.
Now,
that's the good news is this thing's going to go back together.
No, it'll go back together just fine. It'll work just perfect.
Yeah.
It'll work just perfectly. Now, one thing else that we've noticed, so this is where we first start to see the main board for the HomePod, right? There's a circuit board right here. Ooh, and I can tell that this shield right here is not soldered to the board. So we're going to be able to pop that off, and we're going to be able to see the stuff underneath that.
Likely the A8 maybe is there.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We can see the big subwoofer right there.
Yep.
Or the woofer.
That's
4-inch woofer right here.
Yep.
You can hear it. A little bit if we tap on it.
That's where that great bass, remember this device, probably the best bass of any of these speakers. So if you really care about bass, if you're into music with a lot of bass,
about the bass, right?
This is probably your device, right here.
It's quiet.
And so very good.
One thing I am going to do right now is, in order to get this board out, the board was held in with the screws that I took out earlier, but there is another one of these flexible cables that runs down into the device. This is likely
Yeah.
what connects to the speakers or connects to some other circuitry possibly inside that we haven't seen yet. It's this large flat cable here.
All right.
We're going to go ahead
Pop
and
it
lift this
out.
gate up right here. There's a gate on the back of this. This lifts up. And then real gently, we should be able to pop that right out, just like
There
that.
you
And so
go.
with that, we have another circuit board. So this is circuit board, I think,
Number
two.
two. Yep,
We've got
we've
this
got that
circuit
one.
board. We've got this circuit board, and heck, who knows? There's more
knows
circuit
what
boards
else
down in
we
there.
got in there.
We also do, I want to be able to take these shields off so we can see
Okay.
the chips underneath there. We can already see one of the chips right here on the
Yeah.
outside of this. We're going to go ahead and pop these larger shields off.
All right.
To pop this one off, though, we're first going to have to remove the ribbon cable. There's a little bit of adhesive. I don't really like pulling on these
Yeah.
too much,
Yeah.
so we're going to use another one of our guitar picks. Just slide it kind of under there very gently
Okay.
to go through the adhesive. Again, I don't want to pull on this too much. I don't want to like disrupt that.
That's where you could make a connection.
Actually, it looks like
that-
there's a gate on this side, so we're
great.
not even going to do that. I'm going to pull this out here, and because this metal shielding comes off,
Yes.
I'm going to open the gate there. We're going to take another little thin metal. We're going to take a metal tool,
Okay.
or something equally thin. We're going to pop off this.
Yes.
This shielding here. You can see me
See what's
popping this,
under there?
and the ribbon will just come off with it, and we're going to see what's under there. Now this one has lots of little bitty metal tabs
Yeah.
that are being kind of frustrating. That's okay.
Okay.
So you just have to be patient. The little metal bins,
A little bit at a time.
you know,
Yeah.
so it'll go back together, no problem. Even if one of the tabs were to pop off or something like that, as long as it's held back in place,
Yep.
that's no problem.
Again, we're looking for that Apple A8
Yeah.
processor to see where that is. If it's in here, great. It's possible it could be in this unit from the top, but very likely it's in here. Remember the A8, that's not the latest processor that's in the iPhone. It's a couple generations behind.
Yeah, I don't see
but-
any chips. So we've removed the metal shield.
Yep.
Put that down there. I don't see any chips,
Yeah.
really, significant chips on this side of the board. I don't see anything under there. Let me see what
This
that
is all motherboard primarily? or-
Yeah, a little printed circuit board here. So now we're going to take this larger one off on the back.
So you can see the photos of this device
Yeah.
we'll have on Tech Republic. You can also, if you know what some of the chips are, sometimes there are people that watch these shows that they work at some of the companies that, put these chips in here or partnered with them, then you can, of course, anonymously leave us a message in the comments and let us know. You can also use the comments to let us know if there's other things you'd like us to crack open, because we're always looking for new stuff to break into.
I suspect under this right here, I suspect this is the
A8
chip.
okay.
chip. So we're going to take this little, and here it is. Here's the A8.
And
so
there we go.
We'll take this little cushion here. It's probably a little bit of a, you don't sort of see thermal paste anymore on these
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
to sort of connect it, but that's what this sort of pad serves, and it helps protect the chip and serves as a little bit of a heat sink. And so
There
right
it
here,
is.
we can see a memory
The
chip.
Apple
We can
A8.
see the A8 processor. Now this one is easy to identify because it has a large A8 on it.
Yeah.
This one, it's really hard to tell. One of these is probably a Wi-Fi chip in here. It's
Yeah.
just super hard to read the markings on these, but there's definitely a Wi-Fi chip in here. We know there's going to be some audio processing chips in here because it's a big part of this
Yep.
as well. So, here's definitely the guts of the speaker, and this is what makes it actually smart. So at this point, if we just wanted to see what this was, we could kind of stop, right? But I suspect what they've done is they've made a calculation that, look, this component as a whole is not likely to be repaired. Right? They've made the calculation that this component right here, they're just going to replace this as a unit. This is manufactured to be replaced. So if the repair center gets it back in, they're going to have this unit. They'll be able to remove all this other stuff. They'll be able to remove the cover. But then
That'll be it.
That'll be it. There's
So
no
what's-
other ways to do that.
What's
So
likely in here is just the power unit, the tweeters, the subwoofer, and the microphones.
Yeah.
That's probably all that's left in there,
and
right?
the only way I suspect, I think this is all solid.
Yeah.
The only way to get to that is to break out our Dremel
Like a
tool
Dremel.
and try
Cut
to
it
cut
down the
through
seam.
this. Yeah, we'll break out a rotary cutter, and you would cut along this side and then lift this part off, and then the speakers will come out too. For our purpose, what we're going to do is we're not going to do that. We're going to decide that
Yes.
we really want to try and put this back together and do some further testing on it.
Yes.
So, and we've kind of showed the most important tech that we think is inside the device. And so we're going to call it quits here, and we're going to unlike the BB-8 that we cracked open at CES
Yes.
a couple years ago, the little Star Wars Sphero toy,
Yeah.
BB-8. We're gonna spare
Excellent
the
cat toy.
We're gonna spare the HomePod and stop right here.
Very good. All right, so you can find more photos of all the things we've cracked open in the past and more future cracking opens on Tech Republic. You can find videos on CNET, and let us know what kind of things you'd like to see us crack open next. Leave us a comment in the comment section, and we will look and see what kind of stuff that we will do next time. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you.